Humanity faced the unimaginable, an ancient force that sought to erase existence itself. Through unity, innovation, and the stubborn refusal to surrender, they turned hope into a weapon and sang the stars back into life. In the end, they didn't just survive, they reshaped the destiny of the galaxy forever. Stay with us to discover the next incredible chapter, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what happens beyond the stars. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Callisto Station, Jupiter's immense form filling the view like a living monument to humanity's ambition. For 5 years, she had overseen this deep space research outpost, a jewel of scientific discovery dedicated to quantum physics and xenobiology. But today, alarms shattered the calm. 3 vessels just decloaked off our starboard quarter, Lieutenant Morrison reported. They're not responding to hails. The ships were like nothing in the Earth registry, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, hulls that looked disturbingly organic. Before Chen could give the order to raise shields, the screen lit up. A figure appeared, humanoid, gray-blue skin, compound eyes shimmering with reflected light. I am High Executive Zarif of the Corfax Collective. Your facility now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, or we will extract what we need from your corpses. Chen stayed calm. This is a civilian research facility. Earth jurisdiction. Withdraw immediately. You have developed quantum folding technology. We will take it. By force, if necessary. Seconds later, the station shuddered. Boarding pods slammed into the outer hull. The Corfax had arrived. Chen initiated emergency protocols. Lockdown. Secure the quantum labs. Move all non-essential personnel to the safe zones. With only 30 security personnel and over 100 Corfax warriors, resistance was impossible. In an hour, the enemy controlled the station. Zarif reappeared, smug in the command center. Transfer the data, or we will begin executing hostages. 1 per hour. Chen activated a secure channel to Admiral Volav at Earth Command. They want quantum folding data. 200 hostages. They'll start killing. Volav's response was sharp. We do not negotiate with terrorists. 7th Fleet is en route. 48 hours. Hold. Chen ended the call. Her fists clenched. The Corfax believed human compassion was weakness. They would learn otherwise. Dr. Wei, she ordered. Tell me everything about our environmental systems. Over the next hours, the station itself became their weapon. Temperature shifts targeted the enemy's biology. Gravity anomalies threw off their coordination. Light spectrums disoriented compound eyes. Zarif snarled on the next transmission. These games won't save you. Technical difficulties, Chen replied. Old station. You understand. Then they launched the psychological war. Dr. Wei accessed the Corfax communications network. Disinformation flowed. False orders, betrayal rumors. Confusion spread. Nanite-based messages reached the hostages. Hidden signals only humans could interpret appeared on walls. Resist. Be ready. The prisoners sabotaged systems. Fed lies. Sowed chaos. When Zarif executed the first hostage, Chen didn't flinch. She sent a message to the entire Jupiter system. They killed a civilian scientist in cold blood. We offered mercy. They chose violence. What comes next is on them. The Corfax didn't realize they had awakened humanity's most dangerous response, unified, controlled fury. As the 48-hour mark neared, Chen gathered her team. Volav authorized deployment of Earth's most secret weapon, the Quantum Scrambler, a non-lethal field that would incapacitate any neural system based on entangled processing. They'll collapse instantly, Dr. Wei explained. And they'll never see it coming. Chen's team planted traps. The station's AI faked a containment breach in the quantum lab. Zarif rushed in with his warriors. The trap snapped shut. Bulkheads locked. Gravity surged. Security teams poured from tunnels. Scientists fought back with improvised EMPs and biochemical agents. Zarif tried to flee. He made it to the hangar. Chen was waiting. You thought compassion was weakness, she told him. You studied our kindness. But you never studied what happens when we're done being kind. The 7th Fleet arrived. Quantum scramblers activated. The Corfax ships dropped from the sky like puppets with cut strings. The galaxy watched. And remembered. Later, before the Galactic Council, Chen stood again. You demand explanations, she said. We defended ourselves. They executed hostages. We responded proportionally. Evidence appeared. Corfax plans for raids across human colonies. Proof of widespread collusion. Test us again, Chen said. See what happens. Some species backed down. Others came forward with alliances. Earth shared medicine, education, tools, but not the quantum folding drive. Not yet. That, Chen knew, would come only when the galaxy stopped seeing humans as prey. A year later, High Executive Zarif asked her, why didn't you destroy us? Chen looked him in the eye. Because anyone can kill, but only the strong choose not to. The galaxy would never forget Callisto Station. Not for the violence, but for the lesson. Humanity does not negotiate with terrorists. They educate them. And if needed, they transform them. The aftermath of Callisto Station echoed across the stars. Where once humanity had been seen as a promising but naive newcomer to galactic civilization, now it was viewed with a cautious, growing respect, and, in some quarters, deep unease. The Seventh Fleet's clinical defeat of the Corfax ships became the subject of whispered discussions among the old empires. Not because of the strength displayed, but because of the restraint. Humanity had revealed a simple, terrifying truth. They could have exterminated the Corfax entirely, and they chose not to. That choice unsettled powers accustomed to strength being synonymous with brutality. In the weeks following the siege, delegations flooded Earth's embassies across known space. Some came seeking alliances, others seeking leverage, a few out of sheer fear. The quantum folding technology remained locked behind layers of Earth's most classified networks, teased but never traded. At Verity Summit, the largest diplomatic gathering in half a century, Commander Sarah Chun, now appointed as special envoy to the Galactic Security Assembly, took the stage. Before her stood not just politicians, but warlords, economists, scientists, even the elusive envoys of the Shard Mind Collective, beings who had not deigned to attend a diplomatic function in centuries. Chen addressed them without preamble. Some of you, she said, expected us to beg for inclusion. Some hoped we would stumble. Some, like the Corfax, tried to take by force what was not offered. She paced the dais slowly, her voice carrying through the great hall. You misunderstand us. She paused, letting silence build tension. Humanity does not endure because we are the strongest. We endure because we adapt, faster, harder, better than anyone expects. Compassion is our choice. Mercy is our weapon. And when necessary, we forge steel from our grief. The room shifted uneasily. Chen continued, we will share our knowledge, our science, our dreams, but never again under threat. Never again under coercion. Behind her, a holographic image bloomed. The Earth Accord, humanity's new initiative, offering trade, education, medical advancements, in exchange for mutual defense pacts and scientific collaboration. Not submission, cooperation. The hall buzzed with uncertain energy. And in the shadows, the first true seeds of a new galactic order took root. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a different kind of transformation was underway. Callisto Station survivors became the nucleus of the Adaptive Defense Initiative, a new human military scientific corps trained not just in combat, but in negotiation, sabotage, information warfare, and rapid crisis adaptation. Their motto, emblazoned on their banners, was simple: understand, endure, transform. The surviving Corfax prisoners were not executed. Instead, they were given the choice: exile or participation in Earth's emerging rehabilitation programs. Some chose exile, but some stayed. And through them, humanity learned volumes about Corfax biology, culture, and history, information that would one day prove critical. Among the strangest developments was the emergence of the Project Synthesis Initiative, where human and Corfax engineers worked together under strict supervision to create hybrid technologies, self-healing ship hulls, adaptive environmental suits, quantum-entangled communications devices. And then, the unthinkable. High Executive Zarif himself, disgraced and imprisoned, requested an audience with Sarah Chen. The meeting took place in a secure orbital facility above Mars. Behind thick transparent alloy, Zarif, gaunt but defiant, spoke first. You could have broken us, he said. Instead, you offer chains woven with silk. Chen regarded him calmly. We offer the chance to build something better. Zarif leaned forward. And if we refuse? Chen's answer was soft. Then you will watch us from the sidelines as we reshape the future without you. In that moment, something in Zarif's expression changed. A crack in the old arrogance. A glimpse of something almost respect. Back on Callisto Station, now rebuilt and massively expanded, humanity unveiled its first new vessel powered by partial quantum folding, the Pathfinder. A ship capable of reaching Saturn in under an hour. A ship designed not for war, but for exploration and contact. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. And the old powers, those who had long dictated terms to younger races, began to understand. Humanity would not be another client state, not another vassal. They would be the storm. The Pathfinder's maiden voyage was not to a nearby colony, but toward the border of the unexplored sectors, regions abandoned even by the most ancient civilizations out of fear or superstition. When asked why, Chen answered simply, because the only way to honor what we fought for at Callisto is to keep moving forward. And so humanity did, into the unknown, with the lessons of Callisto carved into their bones. They would not conquer by sword. They would not dominate by decree. They would change the galaxy the way they had survived their own crucibles, by enduring, by adapting, and by daring to dream where others saw only darkness. The stars awaited. And this time, humanity would not be asking for permission. The Pathfinder crossed the edge of the known map and entered the bleed. Officially designated as Sector Null 7 by ancient cartographers, the bleed was a region so devoid of reliable physics that even light itself seemed hesitant. Here, stars flickered in and out of existence without warning. Gravitational fields twisted into Mobius loops. Entire planetary systems orbited phantom singularities. The Council had labeled it cursed. Humanity called it an opportunity. Commander Elias Vance led the Pathfinder's maiden deep exploration unit, a hybrid crew of human scientists, Valyrian technicians, and even 2 Corfax xenobiologists under heavy Accord supervision. They called themselves First Light. Their mission was clear: map, study, survive. What they found would shatter every assumption about humanity's place in the cosmos. On the 6th day in the bleed, the Pathfinder encountered a structure. Not a station, not a planet. A lattice, tens of thousands of kilometers across, composed of swirling strands of dark matter and collapsed plasma, forming a 3-dimensional mandala in endless rotation. It wasn't abandoned. It was alive. Sensors failed. Language algorithms collapsed. But deep in the lattice's heart, the Pathfinder detected something undeniable: a pulse. Not electromagnetic. Not gravitational. A thought. First Light voted unanimously to investigate. They deployed microprobes laced with adaptive AI, built from Earth's finest and strangest minds. The probes reported impossible readings: time flowing backward in localized pockets, objects existing in multiple positions simultaneously. And then the lattice responded. It unfolded like a flower. A tendril of coherent dark matter reached toward the Pathfinder, slow, cautious, curious. Commander Vance ordered full diplomatic protocols initiated. Every channel was opened: sound, mathematics, prime numbers, symbolic logic, even shared emotional resonance fields. The lattice absorbed the transmissions. And then it answered. Not with words, with memory. The crew was flooded with visions. Civilizations predating the galaxy's first suns. Wars fought not with weapons, but with realities. A cataclysm, the sundering, that shattered unity across space-time itself. The lattice was a survivor. A beacon. A warning. First Light barely managed to stabilize their minds against the flood of information. Several crew members suffered cognitive dissonance syndromes, reversible but debilitating. The Corfax scientists, whose neural structures were designed for high-variance data, fared slightly better, offering vital translation pathways. The message distilled into a single truth: there is something older than life itself. It sleeps beyond the bleed. And if it wakes, not even memory will remain. Back on Earth, the Accord Council faced a dilemma. The information was beyond priceless, a glimpse into the true prehistory of the cosmos. But it carried a curse. Knowledge of the ancient threat, called simply the Nullborn in the lattice memories, could drive civilizations to despair, madness, or reckless war preparations. Sarah Chun, now head of Accord Strategic Operations, convened an emergency summit. Some advocated burying the discovery. Others demanded immediate mobilization. Chun, as always, chose a third path. We don't retreat from darkness, she said. We prepare for it. Thus began Project Dawnbreaker. Its goals were simple and impossible. Build defense systems capable of resisting non-physical threats. Develop cognitive resilience protocols against existential mimetic hazards. Forge alliances not based on fear, but on shared destiny. Earth opened its arms to unlikely partners. The Shardmind Collective, ancient AI entities, agreed to collaborate. The Valyrian remnants offered knowledge of psychic harmonics long dismissed as myth. Even the humbled Corfax provided insights into hyperdimensional encryption. Humanity led them all, not by force, not by fear, but by sheer, relentless refusal to give up. And deep within the bleed, unknown to the explorers, something stirred. A slumbering awareness flexed, for the first time in eons. It tasted the ripples of curiosity, of hope, of life daring to trespass where only entropy reigned. The Nullborn did not awaken. Not yet. But cracks appeared in its prison. Tiny. Inevitable. The race had begun. Not a race of conquest. A race to prove that existence itself could fight back against oblivion. And if anyone could teach the stars to endure, to transform, to defy annihilation, it was humanity. Project Dawnbreaker was more than a defense initiative. It became a movement, a philosophy, a way to confront the incomprehensible not with fear, but with creation. Within a year of its inception, humanity had built the Aegis Array, a network of semi-sentient satellites stretching from Mars to the edges of the Kuiper Belt, each designed to detect and neutralize non-physical disruptions across reality layers. Beneath Earth's surface, the cradle vaults were constructed, vast repositories of memory, culture, technology, a backup of civilization itself in case the worst came to pass. But the most ambitious project lay within Jupiter's orbit, the Polaris interface, a quantum space-time generator seeded by knowledge from the bleed lattice, designed to forge anchors in reality, bastions immune to null-born influence. Humanity wasn't merely preparing for war. They were rewriting the rules of survival. And they weren't doing it alone. Delegates from over 100 species joined Dawnbreaker, even former adversaries like the Carthan warlords and the fractured remnants of the Orion syndicates. It wasn't about old borders anymore. It was about existence itself. First Light, the Pathfinder's crew, returned to the bleed, this time with purpose. Equipped with Polaris prototypes and Cradle Beacon seeds, they ventured deeper into the null zones. There, they encountered the impossible. Remnants of dead civilizations trapped between quantum states. Planets twisted into endless labyrinths. Ships frozen in loops of shattered time. And something worse, the first echoes. Entities shaped like nightmares, forged from decayed memories and broken timelines. Not truly alive. Not truly dead. Hungry. First Light fought not with weapons, but with resonance fields, pulses of stabilized thought logic that disrupted the echo's existence. Losses were brutal. 3 ships were lost. Scores of lives burned out fighting battles where time and space became weapons. But they held. And they learned. Each encounter taught humanity more about the nature of the enemy. Each victory, no matter how small, pushed the frontier of hope a little farther. And then came the contact. It happened near the hollow stars, a cluster of dark matter singularities previously thought to be gravitational anomalies. First Light's sensors picked up a pattern. Not random. Not natural. A message. Simple. Fragmented. Terrified. Help us. It came not from humans, nor from any species known to galactic history. It came from survivors of the sundering minds and cultures thought lost when the ancient unity of the chorus was broken. Beings who had adapted to life at the edge of reality, who had hidden themselves in dimensions folded like origami into the fabric of collapsed space. The last children of the old songs. Sarachin convened the Accord High Assembly in emergency session. The choice was clear. Respond and risk exposing the still fragile human-led alliance to threats beyond imagining. Or turn away and leave these survivors to be consumed by the rising tide of null-born entropy. Chin's decision was never in doubt. We are here, she broadcast on all secure resonance channels. We will come for you. Hold fast. Thus began Operation Lifeline, the most daring rescue mission in history. First Light, reinforced by the new Dawnbreaker squadrons, plunged into the hollow stars, navigating gravitational labyrinths, fighting off echo swarms, stabilizing collapsed time loops. It was a campaign not of domination, but of endurance. And in the heart of the hollow stars, they found them. The Vesperi, translucent beings of light and sound, their bodies half-anchored in physical space, half-dancing through probability fields. They were ancient beyond comprehension. And yet, they had survived. Barely. Their first words to humanity, transmitted through harmonized quantum chords, were burned into history. You are new, but you remember. You are small, but you endure. You are fragile, but you fight for others. You are hope. The Vesperi joined the Accord. Not as subjects, as equals. Their knowledge, once thought lost forever, merged with human science, Craxian engineering, Valyrian harmonics. Together, they began building the first true defenses against the nullborn. Not walls, not weapons. Songs. Structures woven from memory and possibility, designed not to repel destruction, but to heal the fractures of reality itself. The first was built at Callisto Station, the site of humanity's first great stand. A fitting symbol. And as it activated, sending stabilizing ripples through local space-time, a message was broadcast across the bleed. Not a challenge. Not a threat. An invitation. We are here. We remember. We endure. We build. The nullborn stirred. The real war had yet to begin. But for the first time since the sundering, existence had a fighting chance. And at the center of it stood humanity. Not the strongest. Not the oldest. But the stubborn dreamers who refused to yield. The bleed shook. At first, it was subtle. Sensors on the Aegis array reported phase anomalies, tiny fractures in space-time, no larger than an atom. Then entire sectors began to darken. Stars winked out like dying embers. The nullborn were waking. And they were hungry. The first attack came at the outer edge of the Accord, a frontier world called Deadless Prime, known for its beautiful polar auroras and a research colony of 30,000 souls. They never had a chance. Witnesses, what few survived, spoke of darkness swallowing the sky, of memories unraveling mid-thought, of cities folding inwards like reflections in shattered glass. When the Vanguard response teams arrived, they found no bodies. Only endless fields of crystallized thought, frozen echoes of lives once lived. Humanity had prepared for war, but they hadn't fully understood the enemy. The nullborn did not invade with fleets or armies. They unmade. First Light, now battle-hardened, rushed toward the incursion zones alongside the Dawnbreaker armada. Hundreds of ships, each fitted with Polaris stabilizers, cradle memory arrays, and phase-tuned harmonic weapons. They entered the ruins of Deadless Prime expecting to fight. Instead, they found whispers, fields of silent, frozen monuments, ghosts of light flickering in broken patterns. Every attempt to restore local space-time integrity triggered violent echo surges. Commander Elias Vance realized the truth first. They're not just destroying worlds, he said. They're corrupting reality itself, turning it into something they can inhabit. The Noborn weren't coming for territory. They were reshaping the universe into a form where only they could survive. The Dawnbreaker Armada engaged at once. Instead of space battles, they fought battles of existence. Resonance cannons blasted holes in the entropy fields. Quantum relays created safe corridors through collapsing dimensions. Polaris nodes stabilized small pockets where survivors could be extracted. But it was a losing fight. For every inch reclaimed, the Noborn devoured another kilometer. Sarachin knew Earth itself would eventually be targeted. The Council, once so cautious, once so arrogant, finally sent desperate pleas for help. Humanity answered, not with vengeance, with leadership. They called the scattered species to unity under a new banner, the Harmonic Accord. A promise, a pact. No world would stand alone again. And then, the second front opened. Noborn tendrils reached into the Bleed's heart, toward the ancient chorus remnants hidden deep within forgotten subspace folds. The Vespri warned. If the chorus falls, all hope of resistance collapses. The Accord launched Operation Helix, the boldest campaign ever conceived. A massive strike force, Earth's finest ships, Craxian skimmers, shard mind constructs, and newly adapted Vespri resonance fields plunged into collapsing sectors. Their goal? Stabilize the surviving chorus nodes. Anchor memory song beacons to resist Noborn entropic corruption. Forge a new weapon from memory itself. They called it the Cadenza Array, a symphony written in space-time, designed to counteract the frequency of oblivion. Every fleet commander, every ground soldier, every engineer knew the stakes. Lose here, and the stars themselves would go silent. The battles of Operation Helix defied description. Fleets fought in shifting dreamscapes where causality bent like wet paper. Entire moons were used as gravitational slings to catapult resonance torpedoes into collapsing dimensions. Ships shattered and reformed mid-battle as their crews fought to hold cohesion. Losses were brutal. First Light lost half its number. The Dawnbreaker Armada's flagship Peregrine's Cry sacrificed itself, stabilizing the Orion Echo Rift, buying the Accord critical time. But humanity and its allies pressed on, because they understood something the Noborn did not. Hope was not an algorithm. It could not be predicted. It could not be corrupted. It endured. At the height of the campaign, Sarachin herself took personal command of the Nexus Strike Force, leading an audacious assault deep into a Noborn core fracture. Their mission? Plant the first fully operational Cadenza array within the fracture's singularity field. If successful, it would broadcast a resonance across bleed space, reknitting local space-time, disrupting Noborn expansions, and proving that creation could fight back against decay. The final assault was chaos. Quantum distortions ripped hulls apart. Echo swarms shredded harmonic barriers. Reality glitched. Yet against all odds, they reached the core. And as the Cadenza array activated, it sang. It sang of life, of loss, of defiance, of every human and alien who had ever chosen to build instead of destroy. The pulse spread. The fracture spasmed. And for the first time in recorded history, a Noborn vector collapsed, unable to sustain itself against the harmonics of stubborn, brilliant, fragile existence. Victory. Not total, not final, but real. Across the Accord, a signal went out. We can win. The Noborn recoiled. They adapted. They grew more cunning. But they now knew. Existence would not be unmade so easily. And humanity, dreamers, fighters, builders of impossible futures, would stand at the tip of the spear. The next battles would be harder. The stakes higher. But the galaxy was no longer alone. The age of isolation had ended. The age of unity, of survival through connection, memory, and hope had begun. The Noborn recoiled, but they did not retreat. They adapted faster, deeper. They began to seed shatterpoints across the galaxy, artificial fractures in reality designed to rupture the very fabric of civilizations. Not military strikes. Existential bombs. If even one shatterpoint matured unchecked, entire regions of space would collapse into anti-existence, not death, but unbeing. The Harmonic Accord's survival depended on a final gambit. Sarachin, Elias Vance, and the leaders of the First Light, Dawnbreaker, and the Vespri assembled in the Polaris Council chamber orbiting Saturn. Their plan was audacious, suicidal, by most calculations. Project Prometheus. One final operation to strike not just at Noborn constructs, but at the very heart of their influence across space-time. The idea: deploy a synchronized chain of Cadenza arrays into the deepest bleed sectors, forging a galactic resonance bridge, a unified, self-sustaining pulse that would stabilize the underlying quantum fabric of the entire galactic arm. A song so vast it would drown out the entropy. But it would require sacrificing the Polaris interface itself, humanity's greatest technological achievement. A blow Earth might not survive. The vote was unanimous. Existence was worth the risk. The final battle began under a broken sky. Accord fleets plunged into bleed sectors lit by the dying screams of collapsing stars. Nullborn echoforms rose in endless tides, towering entities that blurred the line between thought and nightmare. The Dawnbreaker Armada fought wave after wave. Shard-mind constructs fractured and rebuilt themselves in milliseconds. The Vespri wove harmonics across entire battlefields, shielding ships with fields of resonant memory. Saracen led the core strike herself, aboard the Pathfinder Prime, a ship rebuilt from the original Pathfinder, now enhanced with every discovery the Accord had made. They carried the final cadenza seeds. The journey to the anchor point, the metaphysical center of the Bleed's fracture, was a gauntlet of horror. Gravitational maelstrom shredded shields. Temporal inversion fields froze ships in midfire. Entire squadrons vanished into probability storms. But they endured, because humanity had learned long ago. Victory belongs not to the perfect, nor the invincible. It belongs to the ones who refuse to quit. At the anchor, the Pathfinder Prime deployed the cadenza core. A pulse rippled outward. The Nullborn reacted instantly, converging from all sectors, a storm of anti-being, a final desperate bid to snuff out the last defiant spark. Saracen stood on the bridge, surrounded by her crew, her friends, her family, and all but blood. She gave one final order. Sing. And the Pathfinder sang. The resonance built. Tones interlocked into impossible harmonies, cascading across dimensions. Memories poured into the pulse. The first steps on the moon. The rebuilding after the long winters. The courage at Callisto. The sacrifice at Daedalus. The hope of the Vespri. The dreams of every stubborn life form that had ever dared to exist. The Nullborn reached them. The fleet shattered. The Pathfinder buckled. Reality howled. And then, the pulse became a river. A flood. A new reality. Across the galaxy, shadow points closed. Bleed anomalies reversed. Worlds frozen in despair bloomed back into light. The Nullborn, those ancient remnants of entropy, recoiled, twisted, and broke. Some fled back beyond the bleed. Some simply unraveled, unable to exist in a universe that remembered itself so fiercely. The war was over. Not with a bang, but with a song. Humanity paid a terrible price. The Pathfinder Prime was lost, torn into the fabric of the new space-time, its crew scattered across harmonic currents. But their sacrifice became legend. Saracen's last words, captured in the cadenza's eternal pulse, became the cornerstone of the reborn galactic memory. Existence is not a mistake. It is a choice. And we will choose it again, and again, and again. In the decades that followed, the Accord rebuilt. New species joined. New stars were born. The bleed stabilized, not erased, because humanity understood that danger and beauty often walked hand in hand. Callisto Station became the heart of memory, a living museum and academy where children learned not of war's glory, but of hope's stubborn fire. Earth, scarred and shining, stood as a beacon not of dominance, but of resilience. The galaxy would never be perfect, but it would endure. Because a small, chaotic, relentless species from an unremarkable blue world had looked into the abyss and answered with a song. And somewhere, out beyond even the farthest stars, faint echoes of the final cadenza still hummed through the void. Not a warning, not a weapon, a promise. We are here. We remember. We endure. We build.